All right. I was trying to go through what we did last week. Good evening to everyone. And if you're joining us for the first time, you can always catch up with the recorded videos of the previous lectures. So last week we went through the software development life cycle, and we talked about the different levels of testing, and we moved on to
Hello. Pat, please, can you share your screen? Can you share your screen, please?
Hold on, I'm sure. Hold on a second. Okay, thanks. So, can everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, we talked about software development life cycle and the different types, levels of testing and the types of testing. We talked about functional and non-functional testing, and we went on to also explain static and dynamic testing. And we explained that a review is part of static testing. And you can actually identify errors even when you are not executing a test. So that is also part of the testing that we do. And there are types of reviews. There's informal walkthrough, technical, and inspection. And we move on to getting the understanding of what a test case design looks like, knowing what we do when we need to do when we are asked to design a test case, and what a test condition is. So in summary, we also went into showing examples as well. And I remember saying that we will deep dive into this today so we can get our hands on and do some work ourselves. So I hope everybody here have got their writing materials, their laptops in front of them, and they can do some work around this. We went through this together, giving you an example of a website and showing you what you can put together as a test, when you put together as a test script in your test case. So that is an example. This is just a test case testing the sign-in condition of a website called gifttreat.com. And we showed the description with the test steps, which explains the description and the expected result. And we also showed the final output in the actual results column in the next slide. So we see what we have done when we have executed the steps on the site. So one thing I would like to do just now, if we are all ready, and I hope everyone here is following, I'm going to bring up a spreadsheet. And let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my spreadsheet? Please type in the chat if you can. Can everybody see my test script, please? I mean, I have a spreadsheet in front of me. If you can, okay, brilliant. Oh, great. Okay. All right. So this is an example of a test script. Okay. Now you've been asked to write a test script to test a sign-in condition, to test a sign-in condition for this particular website. Okay. And what you want to do is to go through the test steps and write the expected result. And when the developer says, okay, I've developed this sign-in functionality, can you test? So your test case is ready, okay? And you follow your test script to execute the test. So that's what you're going to do. So in this situation, at the point where the developer hands over, the developer will basically give you a link. If he doesn't give you, you need to ask, where is the URL to the test environment? Okay. So remember, you test in the test environment. Do not test in the production environment. If you don't remember anything tonight, please remember that. Test in the test environment only. Yeah, it is until you are very, you gain some experience, and maybe for some reason you need to check something in production, and that usually comes with an approval from your test manager or somebody in the team. Please always test in the test environment. If you're not given a test environment, kindly request for the test environment. Okay. So so this is an example. So if you look at this, you're going to see that one thing that I didn't mention last week, because on the PowerPoint slide, I was only able to capture up to where we have the the test status results, passed and failed. One thing I didn't add on that PowerPoint deck was the screenshot. So as a tester, when you are testing, another thing you also need to remember, always capture your screenshot. Always capture your screenshot as your test evidence. Don't worry, Lekon, we are almost there, okay? So I just need to break this down to everybody. If you've not taken anything to mind in the first two trainings, whatever I'm saying tonight, please remember, always remember to capture your test screenshots. If you've tested something and it has passed, take a screen grab. If it has failed, take a screen grab, okay? So that is very important. Now I'm going to put a URL here in the chat. So I want everybody to pick that up. And just before you go in there, if you look at test case ID 5, please, what does test case ID 5 say? I want to know if everyone is following. Test case ID 5, what does that say? No? Okay, good.
Registration.
Okay. Registration, thank you very much for that. So test case ID 5, always note, if you're writing your test script, your test case should have an ID so you can trace it. And ID must be unique. Okay, we are not just putting the test case ID there for the sake of putting it there. It must be unique, and your work must be presented neatly as well. So so I'm placing this URL into the chat. So If you look at test case ID 5, under what we are looking at, the test condition we are looking at, there is the registration. Okay, we want to register. I know a lot of us go online to buy stuff, and we do maybe want to shop on Tesco online, Sainsbury's or Next. We do fill some registration forms. So this is not different. So you have your test steps and test description as well. And that is where you tell us what you are trying to do. You input the steps. And I hope everyone can see what we have there. And if you go follow me for the first step, it says go to www.gifttree.com. Are we all there? So if you are there, please type in the chat what you can see. Whatever you can see is your actual result. The expected result is what the requirement says we should see. Okay? So who is there? If you are there, please let me know. Please, if you are there, just put it in the chat. What can you see? When you type that URL in your Google, I hope we all know where to place the URL. So I'm really trying to break this down, even if you have not done anything testing before, so we all understand. If you open your URL where you put your, you will open your browser where you put your www.gifttree.com and enter, you should. Okay, you are saying changing lives together. Yeah, that tells me you're on the landing page because I know that text is there. Okay, so now in your spreadsheet, because I'm going to ask you to email whatever we've done tonight to you. In your spreadsheet, under the actual results, column, you need to write what you've seen. What you need to write. We are expecting that you land on the Gifttree landing page. We're expecting that is displayed. If it is displayed, all you just need to write is Gifttree landing page is displayed. That's what you need to write. I mean, in this column. Okay, that is what you need to write in this column. Now, pay attention to this. You are using the Excel spreadsheet as a tool. There are other tools out there that we are going to be teaching you how to use as your DevOps when you come on board to the internship. Unfortunately, we can't use that tool here now. So, and there are other tools you can out there, Test Real and the likes. So in Blue Sky Citadel, we use Azure DevOps. And you have exposure to some other tools like Jira with Zephyr as a plugin, where you can write test cases. So you need to write what you can see under your actual result, and then you come to this column and you write pass or fail. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I can see you. Thank you. Okay, Kolapo, that's fine. Okay, who else is here? Sorry, I'm going to be calling names because I want to be sure that everybody here is following, unless you're not here. Okay. So please, I need everyone to respond in the chat. I need to know that everybody is following. Okay, okay. Because at the end of this class, you're going to email what you have done with this registration. Okay, now you go to the second step, enter your email. Now you need to enter your own email, okay? I've only put XXX. If I were to just put my name, so here, this is where you're meant to have, this should be email. So, so this is what you're going to have. It could be Gmail or Yahoo or whatever. It could be Outlook. It could be anything, but you need to enter your email. It could be, for example, pat@gmail.com. Enter your email in that field. You are entering your email in the email field. It is right there in front of you. Okay. All right. I believe everybody has done that. Thank you. Oh, sorry. You're not able to okay, with this spreadsheet, I believe that we are spending like maybe about some 10 minutes on this spreadsheet, and I expect that everyone is able to capture what the column names are. Okay, you should be able to capture what the column names are, so that when you are designing your own, you need to know what where you're putting what. Okay, so if you are on the website and you're on the landing page, okay, for you to be able to register, you need to create an account. So the site is intuitive enough. Okay, you need to click create an account. That is one step. Now, if you're looking at this step from the static testing point of view, the person that has written this test case has written it from the understanding of, okay, I know where everything is. Okay, so from the start, and I need everybody to fix this when you're sending your stuff back, because somebody is saying, I'm in the URL, but I don't have the option to register. If you have ever been on any website, you would know that you need to, any e-commerce website, you would know that you need to register your details or sign in. Okay, if you can see the sign in, that is fine. That one is obvious, you can see that. But on this website, you need to create an account to be able to register. So you need to create an account to be able to register. When you click create an account, then you would be able to follow the steps in there. Okay, are we following?
Yeah.
Okay, so now it is time for you to go into the other fields on the page. You have the first name, you have the last name, you have the phone number, you have the password, you have the confirmed password. Can you fill in the fields? Okay. So what you are doing, you are simply executing the test. You'll be able to create an account. If you are logged onto your desktop, you will see the option to create an account. If you are logged onto on your phone, there's an icon like an hamburger there that you need to click on it, and then you will be able to see where to create your account. But I would advise that you use your desktop for this one. Oh, okay. Sorry, where can you get the spreadsheet? Okay, I will not be sending this spreadsheet out. I'm expecting that everybody will create their spreadsheet. Okay, we are spending some time on this page. I would expect that everyone will create their spreadsheet, identify the test columns. These are the test columns. I'm highlighting them for you. These are the test columns you need to note. Okay. Okay, so you can simply make sure you have these test columns, note them. Okay, note what goes into each. Okay, as an example, I want everybody to be able to create their own and be confident with that. So that's it about that. Now, okay, all right, okay, great, Yemisi. Okay, that's fine. So if you have been able to follow these steps and you can click register now, I hope as you're executing, you're noting what you can see, because for everything you execute, you need to put every the results you get is what you put in under the actual result column. Okay, the results you get is what you put under the actual result column. Okay, so how many of us have been able to execute this test? Because what we have just done, we've gone through the process of executing a test case. Okay, Lekon, you said you've registered. All right, okay, done. You've been able to if you've been able to submit your registration details, can you just put 111 into the chat so I know what we are responding to? If you've been able to put, yeah, all right, brilliant. Okay, brilliant. All right. Okay, somebody said invalid phone number. Then I don't know what phone number you're putting there. You need to look at the icon. So as a tester, you need to pay attention to detail. If you're typing in, in the column, in the field where you need to put your phone number, you notice that by default is the UK flag there. So you need to note the type of phone number you're putting in there. Awesome. All right, Flo, I can see that. All right. What else? I need a 111 in the chat. I want to know if there are 30 people here and only 5 people have responded that they've been able to submit. I need more. I need more. We need to know people understand what we are doing. What we are doing now is executing a test. We have a test script. We're executing the test script. Awesome. So Alishi, I don't understand what you mean. Put 111 in the chat box if you have been able to submit your registration successfully. Yeah, okay, brilliant. So now, while we were doing this, how many of us how many of us managed to capture one screenshot, at least one screenshot? One screenshot. It's okay if you didn't capture any. Oh, well done. So which one is the one screenshot? I will tell you one important screenshot, one screenshot that is really, really important here. That will be the final stage where the moment you click to register now, and you get the validation saying submitted, yeah, successfully or something. So that is one very important screenshot. If you didn't capture any screenshots while we're executing this test case, but the fact that you've been able to capture that one screenshot saying that you have submitted successfully is good enough. Okay. All right. Thank you, Rook. Thank you, Kolapo and everyone. All right, I appreciate your responses. Now, what we need to do with this, please note, you're going to pick a website. I will send you the URL, and you are going to write a registration test case, and you are going to write your own login test case. Okay? All tests, well, look at what we have on the screen, but sometimes you find out there are some differences in the way people have, in the way the developers of this applications have written their descriptions. So please make note of that. If you copy and paste this, I'm going to know. If you actually did the work, I'm going to know. Okay, so please do that. Note your tests, all the columns here, you need them. And this is a very good example. And also make sure you write your status, the test execution status here, whether it has passed or failed. And if it has failed, please make sure you put a screenshot as well. And then what you do, I also need to mention what you do when a test fails, okay? when a test fails, for example, I'm going to give an example with what we've done now. If, for example, you clicked on the submit, on the register now button, and your inputs did not submit, okay? Like maybe the screen is just basically staring back at you, nothing is happening, okay? And you've checked that everything you've put there is fine, it's not coming up with any error message or whatever, then something is wrong, okay? So then you can log it. If it comes up with an error message, you can also log it as a defect, because that is not supposed to happen. What is supposed to happen is what we are expecting, that is submit successfully, okay? So that is fine. Is this the URL we are using, giftread.com? If you have created an account on giftread.com, you will have to use a different website, which I'm going to give to you. I'll give you a different URL before we leave, so that you can go through the registration process on that URL on its own, because I don't want you to use Giftread. Again, I've used Giftread as an example for us. I want you to look at something fresh, you know, and then you go through that execution stage yourself. You write the test case, you write your test steps, you write the expected result, you write the actual result, you execute, and you write add your test status, and you had your screenshot. I hope that is fine for everyone. Okay, we'll now go to okay, bear with me a second. Yeah, so we will go to the next stage. I'm trying to pull up a new another example for us now. Okay. So we'll be talking about the other types of test cases, the other types of test techniques rather. So that is equivalence partitioning, and we're going to talk about boundary value as well. So can you all see my screen now? Okay, I guess not. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, is everybody able to see my screen now? Please type in the chat if you can. All right, okay, brilliant. So last week, we talked about equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis. We talked about the decision table, and we said we would look into getting examples out so we can get hands-on. So like I said last week, testing is more of you developing the skill as you go on. It's not just about clicking on functionalities on the website. There are times where you just need to have you're going to really work, like, break down a complex requirements and identify what your test data are and use your test data to validate test conditions. Okay, so one of the techniques that we use, and this is, like if you go for an interview and you're able to explain these techniques in any interview, trust me, you probably get a positive reaction, because you understand the concepts, you understand techniques and testing. It's really important that you know this. So boundary testing is a process of testing between, the extreme ends or the boundaries between partitions of input values. So you basically kind of identify the minimum value. You identify a value just above the minimum. You identify the maximum value. You identify a value just below the minimum and you maximum, and you identify like a nominal value, the value in between, So, and boundary value testing, equivalence class partitioning also kind of plays a role, because your values are segregated into partitions. So you can do your boundary testing after the equivalence class partitioning is done, but you also need to understand the equivalence class partitioning. But let's take a look at this example for the boundary. So please pay attention to this. I'm happy to go over this, but just let's pay attention to this. So if we have an input box, say, just imagine maybe a box where you need to put in some numbers. We say that box can only accept between 1 and 10. Okay. And we want to test this using boundary value analysis. So the test case you'll be looking at with test data will be, you look for the test case with the test data exactly as the input boundary of the input domain. That's value 1 and 10, because it says it accepts numbers between 1 and 10. So if it's accepting letters between 1 and 10, so exactly we know that 1 and 10 are values that we can use, and they are the boundaries. Okay, so we will identify the minimum and we identify the maximum value. Now you also need to look at test data with values just below the extreme edges. In this case, our extreme edge here is 1 and 10, and just below 1 we have 0, and just above 10, okay, and just below 10 we have 9, because we are looking at values just below the minimum and the maximum. Okay, then we look at test data with values just above the extreme edges of the input domain. In this case, we are looking at a value just above 1 is 2, and the value just above 10 is 11. So what values are the boundaries? As we can see, we have 0, we have 1, we have 2, we have 9, we have 10, we have 11. If we are following, please. Okay, testing is the work of the tester. A tester is the police. Okay, I hope I'm clear, colorful. Okay, so all right, yeah. So if we are following, please, can you put that in the chat if you understand why 0, 1, 2 and 9, 10, 11 are boundary values for this particular condition that we are testing? If you do understand this. Okay, yes. Thank you, Temi. Thank you, Kolapo. Thank you. Because I mentioned that you look out for the minimum value and you look out for the maximum value. And I will say, pay attention to details. It says between. There's a difference between between and from. We will do an example with from, okay? All right, thank you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, awesome. All right. Okay. Now, we need to test this particular condition. It says that I'm an input box, okay? And I can only accept numbers between 1 and 10. What numbers are valid? What numbers are valid? Okay, can we go over that again? I am an input box, okay? I only accept numbers between 1 and 10. Attention to detail. I only accept numbers between 1 and 10. What are my valid values? I need somebody to put, yeah, 2 and 9. Thank you very much, Kolapo. That is the correct answer. As a tester, you need to pay attention to details, okay? Now, don't forget that the 2 is also at the boundary, okay? It's just a value just above the minimum. And the 9 is a value just below the maximum, the extreme edge of our input domain. Okay, so basically, if you pick any, if you pick any of these numbers at the boundary, you've actually done boundary testing for this particular requirement. Okay, what you've done is boundary testing for this particular requirement. Because you are basically looking at the boundaries, because a lot of times, sometimes when developers write, when they write their codes, especially when it's got to do with some calculations or some integers and all that, when they write that, and you need to use this particular type of technique to validate what they have done, to verify that they are basically giving handed over a functionality that works according to the requirements. Okay, now I'll quickly go to the second example. Now, this says if our input condition is from 1 to 10, okay, from 1 to 10, we want to identify our boundary values in. Of course, our boundary values are still 0, 1, and 2, okay? 9, 10, and 11. These are still our boundary values. So, but because we are doing boundary value testing, you know, we just want to pick values at the boundary that will actually capture the expected results of the expected result of the requirement. I'm an input box. I only accept values from 1 to 10. So the moment you pick the minimum value and the maximum value, guess what? You've covered everything from 1 to 10, because your test at the boundary is already validating what the requirement says. I only accept values from 1 to 10. So that is where equivalent partitioning is kind of coming in now. But here, our focus is we are testing the boundaries, okay? What value can we use to test that this particular functionality will work? I only accept values from 1 to 10, yeah. And I want to do boundary value testing for this. I pick 1, which is the minimum, and is at the boundary. I pick 10, which is the minimum, and is at the boundary. Okay, and that is valid. Now, if you pick any number less than 1, even though that is at the boundary too, if you pick 0, okay, it will not give you the result that you're expecting, because 0 is outside my input condition. I hope we understand. I mean, talking about example 2, I hope you're following. I am an input box. I only accept values from 1 to 10. Now, what values are at my boundaries? 0 is at my boundary, is less than 1. 2 is at my boundary, is greater than 1. 9 is at my boundary, is less than 10. 11 is at my boundary, is greater than 10. Now, I'm looking at what by boundary value will give me the results that I want, because I only accept values from 1 to 10, and I want you to test my boundaries, okay? Now, 1 is valid, 10 is valid, but we have this and this as the values in our boundaries, okay? However, if I pick 1, I will get the expected result. That makes 1 valid. If I pick 10, I'll get the expected result. That makes that valid. However, if I pick 0, because it is less than 1, and my condition says value from 1 to 10, my 0 here will be an invalid test condition, because it's not going to give me what I'm expecting to see. Okay? 0 is invalid. Can somebody tell me another invalid boundary value item here? If you're following. 11, awesome, fantastic, fantastic. Okay. Now, thank you, Temi, for that question. Do you know that even though 6 is not at the boundary, okay, but 6 is still valid, because I already said I only take values from 1 to 10, okay? So at this point, Temi, where we are going with your question is equivalence partitioning, and we'll get there soon. So thank you for all the responses. 0 is invalid, 11 is invalid, obviously, okay? Thank you very much. I'm happy you're all getting this. Now, if we go back to example 3, this is one of the obvious slides. Yes, so I'm an input box and I only accept values between 1 to 100. Basically, we can't, we just need to identify what the boundaries values are, and which I've kindly done. All right, yes, you can also call the invalid scenario as your negative test scenario clause. So basically, when you are testing, you also need to remember that you test the happy path. The happy path, sometimes you hear people say happy path. The happy path is where you're putting what you need to put in, you're putting the right test data, and you are getting the expected result as your actual result, okay? That is the happy path. Now, the other path with the happy part, you are covering the valid test conditions. Now with the unhappy path, people don't usually say that anyway. They say negative testing or invalid tests. Okay, so you are basically going outside of what you need to, what test data you need to put in, or which direction or process you need to follow. You are going outside of that to check if you can actually break the system to maybe detect a bug or something or a defect. Because if you input 0 and 1, look at example 2. If you input 0 and 11, and that particular, and you are able to go through, you are getting the result that you are the result for valid in invalid after you input the invalid test condition. You have to note that as a bug, as a defect, because when you input the wrong test data, you get the wrong result. You should get the wrong result. Okay, but if you input the right test data, you get the right result. But if you input the wrong test data and you get the right result, something is wrong. So the developer hasn't done something well there. So you need to report that. Okay. So when you go into the example 3, that's the one between input condition between 1 to 100. So you have the boundary values here. We've been able to identify the boundary values. Now, on top of my head now, I want people to type this in. I want to know who is following. The example is not on the screen, okay? And I need people to type in the chat. My input condition is between 2 and 55. What are my boundary values? Can somebody put that in the chat? My input condition is between 2 and 55. What are my boundary values? Yeah, 3, 54. Yeah, I need more. I need more. I need more. I need more. 2 and 54. Yeah, I need more. My input condition is 2 and 55. What are my boundary values? 2 and 55. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Yeah, thank you. Then I've got 54. I've got 55. Yeah, I've got. Well done, everyone. Thank you very much. Yeah. So I don't think I need to talk about example 3 anymore. Okay. There's no point wasting time. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. That was good. Now let's go to equivalence partitioning. I'm so proud. I'm a good teacher. Okay. Let's go to equivalence class partitioning. So here, it's a black box testing techniques. We know it can be applied because in this case you need input data and all that. And similarly, we are looking at it also from what we've learned from our boundary value examples. So here, so sometimes you may find yourself having to, write test cases for a particular functionality that you're actually thinking, oh my goodness, am I going to write 100 test cases, or am I going to write 1,000 test cases for this? So that's not the case. Thank you very much, Rook. Yeah, I'm proud of you all. So, and what equivalent partitioning does is that it helps us to divide the input data of the software we are testing into different equivalence data classes. So when you are able to divide them into different equivalence partition classes, any value you select from that partition class becomes your test data, okay? And you can use that to validate different test cases that resulted in data sets. Imagine if you have the data set that you're over 1,000, you're not expected to write 1,000 test cases. So if somebody asks you, like in an interview, like say a question like that, you're not expected to write 1,000 test cases. You just tell them, wow, I don't just test, I understand testing techniques. I know how to use equivalence class partitioning. I know how to test boundaries, okay. So that is one example there. Let me push this up a bit so we can all see. Okay. So now I'm an input box and my input conditions are valid if they are between a set of values from 0 to 30. Okay. Now with our knowledge from boundary value testing, we said we look at the minimum, something just below the minimum. We look at the maximum, something just below the maximum, But in this case, we are looking at what the condition says. My input conditions are only valid if they are between a set of values 0 to 30. Okay? And what conditions can I use to test this particular requirement? So I said, okay, you pick 0 and any value less than 0. Any value less than 0 in the chat, please. I'm sure we all know that. And then we pick 1 and up to, because I put between, between in bold. That is where the attention to detail is required by the tester. Between, okay, between 0 to 30, okay, I've got 1 and 29, 1 up to 29, okay? Then what other test condition can I look at? Just to make sure I have enough coverage. I'm not just covering the happy part. Remember, thank you everyone, thank you Flo, thank you. I'm not just covering the happy part, remember, I also want to test if the developer has written, has added some error into his code. I also pick up, I said 30 to 99, because as long as it's greater than 30, okay, anything I picked within that band, within that partition is good enough for me to test, okay? So, and I have the final test condition that I want to use to verify any 3-digit value from 100, because we also need to know that the developer has not introduced that kind of error, that you'll be able to enter 3-digit value. So because we've now partitioned, awesome, thank you, Flo. We've now partitioned, in this case, we are not even saying, oh, anything at the boundary only, but we are just saying, because we've been able to, and this requires a lot of practice, okay? We've been able to analytically break this down to say, what are the possible errors what possible errors can the developer commit in his code? All right. So if anything fails for the 3-digit value, it will fail for the 4-digit value. That's just the obvious, okay? So now, in this case, a valid input condition will be what? Can somebody type in the chat, please? A valid input condition, what will it be? Because we've broken this down into 4 different conditions. Okay, yeah. Okay, I already said only the valid, my expectation to get the result I want is only if I get values that are between 0 and 30. And between 0 and 30, I have 1 and 29. Thank you very much. You are very correct, Agbe. So now the equivalence classes are these four. These are equivalence classes. So it will be 0 and below. Okay. So that could go to -1 up to -100 or whatever. Okay. But as long as we pick any value, okay, as long as we pick any value that is not within this description in each of the partition, it is okay to cover the test. We don't need 30 test cases to cover this. So 0 is not between 0 and 30, okay? 0 is at the boundary. So 0 is not valid, okay? So 0, -1, and all that, they fall into that partition. So this is a partition. This is partition 1, yeah? And this is partition 2. This is our valid data. This is partition 3, okay? And this is partition 4. What we've basically done is to break this down into partitions. If you have like we test this set of data sets that you need to look at, maybe in your project at work, and is going over to like millions of data you need to look at. So you need to be able to apply with this simple example. You need to be able to apply that. Okay, so yes, so let's say, for example, in this particular case, we say our values are valid between 0 and 20. Okay, guess what? If you pick up any value, you don't have to write it. You don't have to test the condition for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, say up to 29. No. Anything you pick, if you pick up 16, or you pick 27, or you pick 29, the behavior should be the same. Do we understand? Because this is the only valid, this is only set of values that are valid for the condition to give me the expected result. Okay? In equivalence partitioning, it gives you an opportunity to divide the possible values into groups or sets, whereby the system behavior can be considered the same at the time when you are executing the test. So if at any time you've been able to break this down, okay, and you pick a value from here, any value, 9, 3, 7, you understand? Any value you pick from here, and it doesn't give you the expected result, which is actually the very first test case. That would be like a smoke test for you to even check before you start going deeper into the testing. If you put a valid value into that input box and it does not give you what you expected to see, let me make it simple. You pick up, say, 19 from here, and it does not give you a positive value. For example, so maybe we're expecting a positive value. For example, you pick up 19 here and it does not give you a positive value, then that is a defect. Okay? So if you pick up any value, this is another condition, 0 and any value less than 0. The result you are expecting here will always be the correct result. The result you're expecting here will always be the incorrect expectation. Expectation here should always be positive. Expectation here will always be negative. Negative in the sense that you cannot get the expectation for this particular part, for partition 2 in partition 1. Partition 2 will always give you the expected result, the actual result. Okay? Now, for partition 1 can never give you the result that partition 2 will give you. If it does, something is wrong. Because we are saying that when we have a valid value between this set of values, that is when we say that we have passed. Okay? When we use that valid value, we use it, we have passed. But when we use a value outside our set of valid values, we have not passed that test because it's not expected to give me the result I'm expecting from partition 2. If it does, something is wrong. So if you come here from 30 up to 99, that's a different partition entirely. And don't forget, we are looking at between. So if you pick 30, any result 30 gives you is what 99 should give you because they are within the same partition. Okay? So with experience, with practice and experience, you get to understand more and how to actually partition. And when a test condition is given, when the requirement is given, or the requirement says I should always get positive values, the requirement says I cannot get a 3-digit value, the requirement says I should not get a fraction, the requirement says I should not get a decimal. Okay, so you test all those with this one. I use any number here, I get positive value. I use any number here, I'm not getting decimal. If I use any value here and I'm getting decimal as my result, something is wrong because my requirement says I should not get any decimal number. Okay, so these are the this is what equivalence partitioning, the equivalence class partitioning is about. And if you look at it from this sense as well, by the time you do the partitioning, okay, you can see that your boundary values are also showing up here. Your boundary values are showing up 0, 1, 30. Okay, you can see 29. Okay, is also showing up as a boundary value, but that is within the valid partition. Okay, 30 and 99 is showing up as a boundary value, but that is within invalid. Let me just put it there so we understand. Invalid. These are invalid. Invalid for the requirement, and these are invalid for the requirement. So I hope we understand that. And the only valid values we can use to test for this condition is anything you have from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up to 29. Okay, but guess what? Any value you pick from here, because you don't have to write 29 test cases. Okay, the behavior you're expecting when you input 3 is what you should expect when you input 4. I'm not talking in terms of maybe calculation or whatever, but I'm talking about what we, in terms of, okay, we don't want to see a decimal number. Okay, if I pick 2, I perform whatever operation, it gives me a result, a value, okay, which is fine, but it's not decimal. That's what we are talking about here. So you would have specific requirements. So it is from your understanding that you'll be able to ask questions regarding what requirements you're given, because you have to apply this testing techniques or whatever you need to do. So I've got another example here. Okay, somebody is asking that in this case, how many test cases would we be writing in this example? To be honest, you can't, in this case, your test case shouldn't be more than 4. You understand? Because you've partitioned and you're only picking values in each of these partitions to test your conditions, okay? So that is it. And the same goes for this one. This is an example that says from 0 to 30. The first one is between, from. So can you help me fill this up with, I need 0 and up to 30. Is a valid or invalid test condition? Can somebody put that in the chat, please? I'm looking at this example. This is our example 2. I'm going to, let me just put this here. Example 2. So we say from 0 to 30. 0 up to 30. So is that valid or invalid partition? Awesome, thank you. That is valid. Valid partition. Okay, now from -1 to -1,000,000 -100, is that valid or invalid? Invalid. Thank you. Thank you, Yemisi. Yeah, this is an invalid partition. Then from 31 up to 99, what is that? Okay, invalid. Yeah, I'm proud of you. Thank you. Valid partition. And any 3-digit value from 100, is it invalid or valid? Okay, invalid. Thank you very much. So I believe we all understand this. There are loads of resources out there. Please, lots of examples on websites, on some testing websites. You go to maybe www.guru99. You would see lots of examples to practice with. So that is how to get to understand it better. Okay, practice. Even you can even give yourself some sets of data and try to identify the equivalence partitioning and any other type of testing techniques with examples that you can see out there. So this is another example. This is which sometimes you use sometimes we try to break down some complex scenarios. I've just given a simple example here because I think this one will be pretty straightforward for everybody to pick up and understand. And obviously we see form registrations and everything daily. So the decision table kind of brings, it gives a visual representation. Let's say look at the registration field that we tried to complete on gift treat. It just gives like a visual representation for specifying which actions you can perform depending on the given condition. That's what it does. So the information is present in a table, as you can see, and you can sometimes the developers, they use decision trees, or in programming language. In programming language, this is where they use our, all this, I don't know if you've heard, the if, then, else, switch case statements in programming language. So it also helps you to be able to identify, it's a good way that helps you to identify different combinations with inputs and corresponding outputs. And they also call it the cause effect table, because there's some logic behind the technique. Like so some sort of logic has been introduced, sort of, so that we can understand what output we're expecting based on to basically obtain the decision table. So it's good to help us design our test cases as well. So look at this example, a submit button in a contact form. Try to imagine our registration form on gifttree.com. So that form is just there, okay? But you need to complete the text, the fields there, and then click register now, okay? Now, imagine this one. This is saying that do not, in simple terms, do not enable the submit button in a contact form unless all the inputs are entered, okay? Do not submit. I'm just rephrasing this example statement. It says a submit button in a contact form should enable only when all inputs are entered by the user. In a layman's language, I will interpret this to, okay, do not enable the submit button until all the inputs are entered by the user. So what are the inputs? Look at this column. The inputs are name, email, and password, okay? And that is my submit button. And I want to cover as many test cases as possible to know that, to be able to break the system and be sure that the developer has done it correctly. In this case, what will be my happy path here? I need you to help me complete that. That is in rule 8. What do I need to put in rule 8? Where T means true and F means false. What do I need to complete in rule 8 to say I have covered the happy path for this particular requirement? Please help me put that in the chat box. True, true, true. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So that's it. That's it. True. 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 And that should, unfortunately, I haven't written, this is just a screenshot. I haven't written any code behind this. So with this submit button should be enabled. That is my expected result. Now, to cover our negative testing. So this is our positive testing. This is our requirement testing. We have tested the requirement. This is our positive testing, and this is our valid testing. I hope we have noted this. Okay. Now, if I do this, false, true, true, and my submit button is enabled, what is that called? Can somebody put that in the chat? What is that called? Bug. Thank you. That's a bug. There's a bug in the system because it shouldn't enable at all, because the rule says only when all inputs are entered. It's a bug, it's a defect, an error has been introduced into the code. Thank you, Richard, AE, and Nico. Thank you very much. So if so let's assume that if you don't have anything here, it's still disabled, which is fine. And somehow we've managed to cover all our test cases. Even with this one, I have false, false, false. Nothing is has been input into the fields. Okay, so my submit button should not enable. The same goes for this, the same goes for this, the same goes for this, until I input everything, all inputs. That's the word, all. So please, in testing, when the requirement is passed to you, these are the little things you need to pay attention to. Okay, so that when you're writing your test cases, you are writing them objectively. All inputs. If they say some inputs, you know, if all was is to be replaced by some input, and the input, that means that I only need one to be true. That's the question. So some input, it means some can be false and some can be true, but I only need one. If it says at least one must be true, I think an example of at least one must be true, at least one must be true. I think this will satisfy that, this will satisfy that, this will satisfy that, this will satisfy that, and this will satisfy. The only one that would fail in this case, if it's at least, will be this one. The submit button should not enable. Okay, so I hope and I believe we all understand. Please put 111 in the chat if my explanation is clear. Awesome, thank you very much. Now we move on to the state transition table. Okay, so this is can anybody, you can see in the example, can anybody give me an example of a system that undergoes state transition? We use some of it every day. State transition, we use some of it every day. Can somebody give me an example? ATM, awesome. Yeah, ATM, yeah, awesome. Yeah. I need one more example. If we don't want to use the stairs, sometimes we just use it. Okay. Okay, log into your account. Lift. Yeah, I was expecting that. Mobile phones. Our mobile phones go through elevator. They go through state transition, obviously. Thank you very much, everyone. So we already seen the different types of applications that we can apply, that we can use, and different test testing techniques for. We know what is happening at every point in time. Thank you very much, everyone. So for state transition, it checks the state of the application under varying input. As you can see here, we have varying input in that example. Let's imagine this one is your ATM. you want to get some money, and your first attempt, you entered an incorrect PIN. Your second attempt, you entered an incorrect PIN. Your third attempt, you entered an incorrect PIN. And what happens? Your account gets blocked. Okay? So your first attempt, if you enter an incorrect PIN, you are given another allowance to try the second time. You enter the correct PIN, you are granted access. Can you see? There's an input, there's an action, and there's an output. The action is the event taking place. Okay? My inputs are the PIN that I'm putting in. Okay? Then look at this one too. My first attempt, I have added an incorrect PIN, and my second attempt, I added an incorrect PIN. Then it gives me another chance to try the third time. I enter a correct PIN, and I'm granted access. After I'm granted access, the system should not display an option for me to enter PIN numbers again. This is also a form of testing. If my account is blocked, the system should not display a page or a screen for me to enter my PIN. That is why you have not applicable here and not applicable there. Okay? So we've seen the different types of testing techniques. We've seen equivalence partitioning. We've seen decision-based table. We've seen the state transition table. We've seen boundary value as well, boundary value analysis as well. So I hope all these techniques are clear, and I hope we do understand them. I don't know if anybody has a question in there relating to all of this. Any questions? Any question? Okay. So if we need to input our PIN number correctly the first time, yes, you are granted access. You are granted access. If you are still seeing my screen, let me know. You are granted access because I'm moving my cursor on this. Your first attempt, you are granted access, and this is, and it takes you back to your position. You transition to that point where you've been granted access, which is this, and you don't need to have to do anything again. So this is what we are looking at. So your first attempt, you are granted access because you entered the correct PIN. And when you are granted access, you transition state, your start state is here, access granted. and you are no longer expected to input any PIN. I hope you get this, okay? And your account does not get blocked until you have attempted your PIN 3 times. And that is that state here. First, second, third, your account is blocked. Why? Because you've entered your PIN 3 different times. And when you are at this stage of where your account is blocked, your starting point goes back to where your account is blocked, and you no longer need to enter any PIN number. You don't have access to do that. You probably have to phone the bank or walk into the branch, or to say this is the issue that I have. So now all these are black box testing. Yeah, you don't need to know what is going on in the code. White box testing, you need to understand coding, you need to know the programming language. All these are black box testing. You're only applying testing. You're applying testing techniques. State transitioning testing is a black box testing technique. Who asked the question? Trying to. Okay, Lola. Lola said if we need to input our PIN number correctly the first time, yeah. So Lola, have I been able to answer your question? Because we've just placed, there's always a starting point for a transition to take place, okay? So does the developer carry out any of this? Yeah, developers test, yeah, they do well with their developer hat in mind. Some of them do know, they do write unit tests for this, but guess what? Not all, they write their code according to the requirements, but it is their duty to unit test their code and be sure that their code is not just satisfying what the requirement says, it's also able to pick up anything outside of the requirement that their code might be executing. So errors can be introduced into the code. Black box testing, does developer carry out any of this? Sometimes, some developers, they just do, they just test and do this kind of testing. But it's majorly the role of a tester to do this in depth, because we are expected, we have been trained, to learn and get, we've been trained and we've skilled up in learning all these techniques, and we're expected to know them and to be able to use and apply them to any application that we're testing. So, any more questions, everyone? So for our assignment, okay, let's have so we're going to look at this URL, e-commerce URL. And what you're going to do, you probably might have an account with them before. Okay. And I'm giving you this because there are lots of fields there that you can actually play with in terms of writing a text, your test script. And that is next.co.uk. So you can create your own test script, to create your own registration test script for next.co.uk. So I'm putting that in the chat so everybody can. So you create your own test script. For registration, okay, just in terms of in the terms and language you need to start getting used to. Registration is a functionality on Next. Registration is a feature in Next, okay? So if you are in the internship, you would hear feature a lot because we are going to be using that in Azure DevOps. Functionality, feature. Let me give you a little more, yeah. For registration functionality or feature, and yeah, write your test condition. I also want to see your a column. I also want to see a column for your test data. I hope you're able to get that. I just want to stretch you a bit. Add your column for test data. I want to see, because we've done this boundary values and all those things now. All those input values we are using are actually called test data. Now, when you are entering your registration field and all that, anything that you are putting as input is a test data. So I'm requesting that if you can just go an extra mile, add a column on your tests, on your own spreadsheet, add a column for test data. Because the thing is, when you go out there on the job, yeah, you would have to create test user accounts. You're not going to be using your Yahoo Mail or Gmail, or you understand. So for that particular application you're testing, you're going to have to request for test accounts. You know, you're going to be sometimes you have to create your own test data, and sometimes you have to talk to the developer to provide test data for you. Okay. So let's start to understand all this. Add your own column for test data and other columns that we have looked at. And add your expected results. And if you are able to execute, which I think you should, that you should also take a screenshot of your test result. So add your actual result and add your test status. Your test status is column is where you put your pass or fail. Then add screenshot. I want to say screenshot as well. And okay, that's it there. Okay, so you send this to admin@blueskycitadel.com and just make the subject test case, so that I'm just going to do a search. Okay, just make the subject test case, please, so that I can do just one search and it will bring up everything with test case. Just test case only. Just put test case 2021. I think that will make it, because we've received other assignments in previous years. Just to test case 2021. Okay, it makes it easy for me to search. Yeah, so you have to create your own Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so that's the URL, next.co.uk. Let's play with it. Let's put some, and please make it really, really neat. Okay, so if you're watching the playback video, this is the assignment. This is the assignment. And this is where you need to send it to. Okay. Yeah, deadline before Monday, before next Monday. I mean, like by latest Saturday, it should be in, because I need time to have a look at it. Yeah, please, by Saturday is the latest time. Saturday morning, please. Deadline Saturday morning. Okay, what if you already have an account with them? Create a new account. It's just simply by you creating a new account. Okay, you are generating a test data. Okay, these are the kind of examples you can have when you go out there. So because you already have an account, okay, that's fine. But how do you generate test data? You understand? So what you're doing at this point is you are setting up test data for a particular application. I hope I'm clear, Yemisi. Yeah, all right, thanks. Because sometimes you might, be fixed with those questions that, oh, how do you generate a test data? Okay. You have to create one yourself, and it's a process. Okay. So that's what you're doing. Saturday morning. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been nice, been a nice evening. And I do hope I've not confused you. I've put it on the screen. I think I'm still sharing my screen. You send it to admin@blueskycitadel.com. Please make the subject test case 2021 so that I can search easily and review. Thank you very much. And I hope everyone has picked up the assignments. Yep. You can't be a tester and not know how to write a test script. There's no way. Okay, so this is a basic assignment. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It is nice. It is amazing. Yeah. So I'm still here. I'm logging off at 10, just in case somebody or anyone wants to say anything, or you have a question, or you need to clarify something. I will display the spreadsheet once more, just in case. And I also like to encourage us that you should please register for your Isap foundation exam. It's important. It's not difficult to pass. And I always say that it's better you even, whilst you're still fresh from the training and you are getting your hands on, you are getting used to the terms. You're getting used to the terms that are used in testing, and you are getting more confident. Okay, you're getting more confident and you're getting yourself ready and prepared for interview opportunities. So it's important that you write your Isap, register for your Isap exams. And I think there are 40 questions there. So, and we do, I think we'll be able to give you some support when you're ready. You need to start looking at we have some questions that I think some mock questions we can share with you. So don't let it stop here. Testing is very interesting and it pays well. I know we like the money. Okay, so yeah, your scripts are the tests. Yeah, I say ISTQB foundation exam. ISTQB foundation exam. Okay. Okay. Do you have to learn Java with testing? Yes, if you're going to be for automation testing, you are going to do a lot of that in the internship, and you're going to learn how to do Java. So so somebody's asking for the difference between a test case and a test script. So your test case is your step-by-step approach procedure to test any functionality. So your test script gives the instruction, it gives you instruction, is a set of instruction, or it could be a program to test a functionality. Okay. So your test cases, you write them manually. So somebody said his audio is not working. Okay, I think I've answered. Do we have to learn Java with testing? I've answered that for automation testing. So your test scripts as well, it could be Okay, Lola, you will get the recording. Our admin guys are hands-on. They're recording this, and they would put the link in the Telegram group for you to access. Sure, that is fine. So your test case includes your test condition, it includes your test data, it includes your test ID, you know, it includes all those descriptions. Your test script, if it's manual, it's just your set of instruction. And your test scripts can also be automated test scripts. Something I didn't remember to mention here when I was going through the test case for you. I don't know if anybody has heard about Gherkin. You're going to be using the Gherkin language a lot in automation. And it is, you use the syntax is given, when, then. So it's just you converting your go to giftry.com to and enter your email.com, you convert that into given, when, then statements. So that's what that will be for the automation class. If you're in the automation class, I'm sure the trainer would break this down for you. But it's good as a test as well, because as a manual tester, you can find yourself in a team where they're doing a lot of automation, or where they write the requirements, acceptance criteria, and it's written in given, when, then, or they are not expecting you to write your test script, your test case in this format. So it's also a skill to build on and learn. We do a lot of that in our internship class. So see you all next week. I think Yemi will be taking you on the test management and tools, the various tools that are out there, and other related topics to that. So good luck. I'll be able to respond to your assignments by the grace of God. I'll be able to give you feedbacks on it. So I wish you all good luck. And if you are going to be part of the internship, then I'll see you around. Thank you, everyone. Good night and God bless.